This is intro, right?
I think so.
This is intro. Okay.
Is it more awkward to film that I'm here?
I mean, hi guys, welcome to Noni Seattle. So today we're going to talk about the housing options as a foreigner in Seattle or the US. Recently, Sharon just moved into her new apartment. Yay! And we're going to show you how her new place looks like.
Turned 19 and I dropped out for a few months in my hometown. Cause I'm moving on to bigger and better things. Had a lot of low things, but I'm up now. Keep your head on straight, don't slow down. Cause I'm moving on to bigger and better things. We stay up too late, but we don't go out. My new friends are fake, they all talk too loud. I got one more year. Now I'm in a rush cause I'm 19, but I don't give up cause I'm finding everybody here's young, rich and sad, but I want it so bad. Now I'm growing up and I'm 19, but I don't give up cause I'm finding I don't wanna be young, rich and sad, but I wanna be so bad. But I wanna be so bad.
So, first, how do you find an apartment to live in? Sharon?
Oh, it's my turn.
Yeah, how did you find this apartment?
Basically, I think most people kayak nyarinya lewat online aja. So apartments.com, a lot of websites gitu-gitu, and you can also find dari referral temen. Misalnya your friend already lives in an apartment, and sometimes they get bonus if they referred someone to move into their apartment. In this case, I found this completely new apartment, lagi promo, COVID, thank you. So I got a really good price and it was online, and then kayak I just took a tour and langsung deposit. So online is my answer for everything. Just look for it online. Apartments.com is more. Zillow juga nggak sih atau itu just houses?
I think there's also on Zillow, but a lot of them are houses, like house shares, houses or condos if people are renting out their condos. Apartment.com, I think is a good one.
It's a good one, yeah. Any tips from my American friends? You can go, especially if the buildings are older, hence cheaper. You can go to the apartment themselves, go to the leasing office, and kaya ngobrol langsung aja, hey, kaya you have a leasing sign in front of your door, and I need to find an apartment. Okay, what's your prices? Gitu-gitu.
And now, due to COVID, you have to do an online tour, right? You can't do like an in-person tour.
I mean, I can, tapi I was lazy and I trust. I passed the apartment a lot, jadi I udah tahu it's very new and kayak dalamnya udah kelihatan bagus, and I was desperate to find someplace new because I had to move out anyway. Jadi I had no issues. Kayak I think my previous apartments in LA I had worse living conditions, so ini very very step up sih.
How much did you get for the studio, and if there's any promo going on, you know?
Kalau 12 bulan lease, so kontrak 12 bulan, you get 1.5 month for free rent. Kayak you don't pay rent. Application is free.
Application is free.
Application
It's
is free for everyone. Kaya even
nice,
if you only
nice.
have like 4-month lease, kaya you got it for free.
Okay.
Yeah, those are the only promos you get. Tapi it's very common, especially since COVID. Kaya a lot of apartments in Seattle tuh kaya 2 bulan gratis, 1.5 bulan gratis, especially downtown, Capitol Hill. Salt Lake Union has really good promotions juga because a lot of the software people are going back to other states because they don't need to stay in Seattle.
Because those places used to be like the hot spot, like they're high demand,
Expensive.
very expensive. I mean, if you're a software engineer, you can easily afford them, I guess. But
Yeah, enak ya.
but we're not software engineers, so. And then, what do you need to apply or to get accepted? I guess. How do you submit the application? How do you make sure that your submission was accepted by the leasing people, and all that?
First thing you need, kalau misalnya mau sign sendiri without issue, social security number and a credit score. And I learned just because you have a social security number doesn't mean you have a credit score. The way you build credit, credit card paling gampang. Is there any other way?
I think credit card. I guess di Indo nggak ada credit score ya.
Oh, iya.
Jadi kayak credit score tuh di sini tuh kayak semacam score buat tahu kita utang berapa banyak atau kita suka ngelunasin utangnya on time atau enggak. Jadi kayak that's why waktu kita apply credit card kita otomatis dapat credit score. Kalau misalnya nanti kita ngebayar utang credit cardnya tepat waktu terus, credit score-nya bakal jadi bagus. Tapi kalau misalnya kita telat bayar utang atau stuff like that, nanti credit score-nya jadi jelek. Yeah. So I guess the apartment needs your credit score to make sure that you're someone who pays your debt on time and you don't have any debt issues and all that.
Basically, you're financially responsible. They also need to know how much money you make. Salary lu berapa? I think untuk apartemen ini, your 1 month salary harus 3 kali rent sebulan. I don't know if different apartments different rules, tapi that's the basics of it. So they might ask you for proof of salary. Jadi kayak gaji lu the last 2 paychecks you have, or maybe even in my case I belum dapat paychecks because my job was new. So I gave them my acceptance letter. No. My offer letter. Yang udah ada.
You're accepted to this job.
Your offer letter with the salary listed, and then they're like, okay, legit, kayak lu dibayar segini, lu bisa bayar apartemen no problem.
I guess they need proof that you can pay for your rent, and the easiest way to prove that is by how much you're making gitu kan, gajinya berapa. Jadi kalau gajinya segini kalian berarti pasti bisa bayar rent apartment. And then 3 times the lease, it's before tax. Jadi sebelum kepotong tax kan.
So it's good for us.
Good for us. Jadi kayak oh ya bisa, tapi setelah dipotong tax ya kita dapetnya cuma segitu. If you don't have a job, jadi kalau you guys are international students, you can give them I-20. It's like usually you get I-20 with your F1 visa. Jadi kayak I-20 itu kayak shows kayak which school do you go to, and then how much is the tuition per year or maybe per quarter, I don't know. But jadi kayak di dokumen I-20 itu bakal ada tulisan kalian tuh bayar tiap tahun berapa sih buat sekolah di sini, and jadinya kayak ada apartment people or the leasing people, they can know kalau you probably can afford paying the rent to this apartment because you're paying this much for your tuition. Berapa $10,000, I don't know, but yeah.
And sometimes I think the cases waktu I tinggal di LA, they ask your bank account, your bank statement, how much money your parents kasih lo.
Kayak uang jajan.
Yeah, uang jajan. Kayak kalau cukup, then they'll accept you. My case in LA, I had an uncle yang tinggal di LA, jadi aku basically pinjam namanya, dia co-sign apartemen I, jadi pakai social security sama credit score-nya dia. Tapi I yang bayar rent. Yeah, that's a way to do so too.
So I guess that's like proof kalau that person can guarantee that you will be able to pay for the rent.
Kalau misalnya kayak anaknya nggak pay rent for a few months, then they'll go for my uncle. And his credit score yang bakal hancur.
I see. Let's say you apply to an apartment and then you get accepted. Kayak you udah boleh, they accepted kayak your application. What do you need to do next?
You need to contact the gas, electricity people of your county. Kayak di Seattle, it's Seattle City Lights. I don't use gas, but they'll tell you. And ask your leasing office about the internet provider, karena setiap apartemen tuh beda-beda internetnya, kayak udah dikhususin. And ask them if there's a way for you to set up, kayak mesti panggil orang atau bisa sendiri. Luckily apartemen ini I bisa sendiri, udah disediain kayak all the gadgets and things. I cuma
the modems already,
modem sama router, jadi tinggal go online and turn it on by myself, putting in my credit card information, and then they turn it on for me. And renter's insurance.
Kayak harus punya asuransi buat your apartment gitu ya, apartment unit gitu, in case there's fire or flood or earthquake. Just like those precautions. So if you're an international student, so when I first came here to the US, I didn't live in an apartment. Okay, I lived in a dorm that belongs to UW. It was an old dorm. You have to share the bathroom, and then it's an okay experience. Jadi kayak there's also other options, not just apartment for international students especially. Kayak there's dorm, there's also house share. I think banyak orang Indo di Seattle especially.
Especially in Seattle.
Suka banget house share. Jadi kayak biasa ada tinggal serumah lah kayak semacam kos, tapi nggak ada ibu kosnya.
Ada sih.
Ada?
Harusnya.
Oh iya, some of them ada. I guess kayak a few of my friends gitu mereka pemiliknya di Indo, jadi pemiliknya nggak tinggal di rumah bareng mereka.
I feel like there's two types of house shares. You can either rent a whole house with your friends, atau kayak you go to a house share yang kayak udah ada kamar-kamarnya, tapi kayak your roommates are random. Yeah, so it's basically a mini apartment.
So I guess there's other options, apalagi kalau misalnya you're a student and you pertama kali, at least for me when I first came here, I'm like, oh I don't know where should I live, dorm aja yang gampang udah ada di-assign dari university-nya gitu kan. And then after that kayak house share, kayak kenal sama teman, tinggal bareng teman atau stuff like that. As I grow older, I need my own place, so hence get a new apartment.
My case was different waktu I tinggal di California. I think I tinggalnya di apartemen most of the time karena mungkin gue kurang investigate kayak more further kayak house share ada nggak sih di situ, tapi I lived in a dorm for a while. After that ketemu temen and then tinggal apartemen langsung, and di LA I nggak pernah balik ke dorm atau house share, but I lived in a house share in Seattle. It was nice. It's just kayak I think umurnya udah rada tua dibanding kayak roommates jadi I need more space and I like privacy and quiet gitu. Tapi kan mereka masih kuliah, masih kayak they wanna look for roommates yang kayak lebih interactive, and I like my living spaces quiet and peaceful. So house share was not really for me. Emang gak cocok aja. Tapi I think for a lot of students yang mau cari banyak temen, house share is really good for you. Plus it's cheaper.
Let's talk about the pros and cons of living by yourself, living with your parents or family, and living with roommates. I think those are the three main options that we typically see here.
Or Indo.
Pros and cons of living by yourself. So you've lived by yourself for a long time. What are the pros?
There's so much privacy. You can decorate your own place the way you want to do it. You have more space, more storage for everything. Kayak nggak usah pusingin itu, lu nggak usah pusingin kayak did you eat my lunch gitu-gitu, kayak roommate issues kayak gitu, nggak usah berantemin kayak who washed the dishes. Pokoknya I like living by myself because I'm very territorial and I get very anxious kalau ada orang yang megang barang gue atau grecokin kayak kulkas the way that I don't want it to be.
I think what I like about living by myself, I think you mentioned privacy, that's a big thing. I also like my privacy. Kayak it's just nice kayak not having to worry that people will suddenly go into your room, or like kayak you have to worry kayak someone will go into your like mess things up in your kitchen and stuff like that. I also like how you feel independent. Kayak kalau bisa tinggal sendiri tuh lebih you just do everything by yourself. You don't need to worry kayak nanti roommate-nya bisa bayar rent kayak kayak nanti kalau dia nggak bisa bayar rent kita berdua nih kick out. Like kayak we don't have to worry about those things. Kayak it's all on you. I think living by yourself also teaches you how to become independent. Okay, you have to learn how to pay for your own rent. You have to learn how to pay for gas, electricity. Kayak zaman dulu mana tahu kalau ternyata bayar listrik beda ya atau bayar air beda ya gitu.
And kayak kontaknya beda-beda loh. You have to contact for gas, electricity, internet people gitu loh.
How to set up your own internet gitu.
How to set up your own.
Kalau di rumah kan biasa kayak udah ada internet, tinggal passwordnya apa.
You learn to be more independent, you learn how to be more clean. Yang biasanya dulu punya pembantu untuk cuci semuanya, you have to learn how to cuci your own clothes and wash your own dishes. Kayak ngepel, nyapu kayak gimana. You cannot use Clorox spray for everything. You gotta use different cleaning products.
I guess that's also kind of the cons. Jadi kalau misalnya yang udah biasa tinggal di rumah, ada pembantu, ada our parents yang biasa bantuin bersih-bersih, biasa masakin makanan, lipetin baju, like all that. Kayak if you live by yourself, I guess the con is you have to do everything by yourself.
You have to think about kalau nyalain lampu jangan lama-lama yang udah kebiasaan because you're paying for it gitu loh, unless lu dapat uang jajan dari parents, which I'm jealous. Another con that I realized kayak it's kind of scary because everything security lu ngurus sendiri. If there's a weird person in front of your apartment and kayak or something janky is going on, kayak no one is there to really help you out. Di sini nggak ada satpam di apartemen. Most apartments in Seattle nggak ada. Adanya leasing person which won't help you do that. Kayak so you have to understand kayak emergency non-contacts tuh siapa aja, and kayak 911 gitu-gitu, like what's the procedure, what's an emergency, what's not an emergency.
Yeah, I think security is very important. Apalagi because we're women especially, kayak we're women living alone gitu. Jadi kayak of course kalau misalnya kita pulang malam gitu kayak harus
Run.
I guess that's a good advice. Or jangan dengerin AirPods or earphones maybe.
Don't show your AirPods.
Yeah,
Someone will steal that. Use the Wolverine keys kalau jalan.
Yeah.
So you put keys between your knuckles, and then kayak kalau ada anyone, that's how you self-defense. Buy pepper spray, buy mace. It's great being a woman.
And I think for me kayak, well I have Rose, which is like a plus gitu, kayak I have a dog living with me, jadi kayak nggak gitu berasa sendirian.
They can sense ghosts.
Tapi the con is like kayak katanya kan anjing bisa sense ghost kan, jadi kayak whenever Rose suddenly barks in the middle of the night, I freak out. I'm like, is there a ghost? Like, is everything okay? And then she would start barking, and I would just like cry. I guess that's another topic. Because like in Indo kan lebih banyak setan I guess ya, or like lebih banyak orang yang kayak interested in lebih mikirin
jadi
juga
energinya
gitu.
tuh strong, so the ghosts will
the
come.
spirit energy is high.
Kalau di sini orang nggak percaya I'm protected.
Nggak ada
yang percaya.
Kayak palingan dia barking gara-gara dia apalah gitu. Does it feel lonely to live alone?
Yeah, a little. Not as much. I can live with it gitu. Kalau sepi, I paling call you or like friends gitu, and kayak ngapain Zoom, especially these days kayak nggak bisa ketemu semua orang kan.
Telephone and video call, FaceTime. And what are the pros of living with your family?
Selalu ada makanan. Kalau we're talking about comparing anak-anak yang mungkin sekolah di Indo atau kayak yang seumuran kita yang masih tinggal di Indo, enaknya tuh kayak semuanya tuh disediain, ada pembantu, ada yang masakin, lunch, dinner every day. You don't have to be the one yang ke pasar sendiri and kayak cari grocery sendiri. Maybe you do and that's great, tapi kayak we have to do it ourselves here.
I feel kind of like bad when we don't mention this first, tapi kayak one of the pros is you're close to your family. Kayak jadi kalau misalnya kangen gitu, or maybe kalau you live with your parents, you nggak pernah kangen mereka gara-gara you see them every day. Tapi kayak kalau misalnya with us yang tinggal jauh dari orang tua, kadang-kadang you miss them, jadi kayak it's nice ya, maybe kayak kalau misalnya bisa live closer to them, atau misalnya to be completely honest, I would rather live by myself.
I think my parents like it.
Kayak it's nice to be close with parents, tapi kayak it's really nice to live by yourself and have your own privacy. And kayak jadi I guess kayak a lot of people kayak mereka emang kayak lebih suka tinggal sama parents, dan good for them, kayak they like being close to them.
Yeah. You guys have a very healthy family. Good for you.
And I think one more thing, kayak gratis. Like
it's
free. You don't have to pay for rent. That's like a big thing gitu.
I have a friend here. Dia bayar rent sih. Tapi it's an American culture thing, because kayak lu udah umur di atas umur 21, you have to live by yourself, and she chose not to, and she pays rent.
Oh my goodness.
Because of that. Tapi cheap rent, tapi still rent.
Oh my god. I think kayak makanya bedanya US sama Indo, kalau misalnya di US kayak it's normal for people to live by themselves. Tapi begitu misalnya I go back to Indo, orang pasti bakal kenapa nggak tinggal sama parentsnya? Kan lu belum married.
And also the fact that kayak I think property compared with gaji di Indo, economically it makes more sense if you live with your parents, because I don't think I could afford to live in an apartment by myself dengan gaji I dulu yang di Indo.
That's kind of true though. Kayak di sini tuh minimum wage tuh $15 per jam kan.
So 15 per hour kali 40 kali 4, that's around 2,400 per month. You can live in a crappy apartment for
Even less kalau misalnya
Even
ada
less,
roommate
yeah.
segala macam bisa $500 atau $700.
itu gaji waiter, gaji Starbucks gitu, segituan.
Yeah, if you work as a barista in Starbucks, kayak probably you make that much plus tips gitu. It's minimum wage tapi kayak masih bisa gitu, masih
Yeah.
bisa tinggal apartment atau house share stuff like that. Tapi kalau misalnya di Indo, it's very hard.
There's no,
Yeah.
it feels like there's no foundation. Kayak minimum wage-nya tuh kayak bisa untuk apa? Kayak bisa untuk tinggal, untuk rent tempat tinggal gak? Untuk bisa mencukupi kayak everyday living gak? Gak tahu ya. Maybe I'm thinking about kayak like the average dorm di Indo I think is like 1 juta. Itu pun I think udah cukup berat. For a lot of people yang kayak kerja di Indo, kayak at least when I see gaji Indo tuh average-nya berapa. Cons of living with a family.
Oh, I think we covered a lot. Cons living with family, kayak no privacy.
No privacy.
It's like kayak when pas masih kecil, our parents usually say, or my parents usually say kayak, this is our house, our rules, and I'm like, okay, I can't do anything gitu, this is your house. I couldn't really decorate, I guess. Kayak misalnya I lebih suka pajangannya taruh mana gitu, I couldn't really because that's not really your house, It's like
Kayak nggak boleh tempel poster.
Iya nggak
Nanti
boleh
rusak.
nanti rusak temboknya gitu. Like there's like limitations on how you can decorate your place. No privacy. I guess my house in Indo, I don't have privacy because my room is connected to my sister's. Jadi kayak I literally have no privacy unless I go to the bathroom.
Going back home makes me feel like a kid again, karena tiba-tiba like I feel like in general parents treat kids differently here versus di Indo. Misalnya my American friends punya parents, they don't ask specific questions yang kayak mungkin orang tua di Indo nanya gitu ke anak-anaknya, cause they already separate, udah nggak tinggal bareng, udah basically their own person gitu. Kalau di Indo I feel like I'm not my own person, and kayak apa-apa dikepoin, baju dikepoin, kayak pakai apa dikepoin.
We still have curfew. Like I'm 20-something-year-old, not gonna disclose my age.
Just say
20-something years old, and I still have curfew kayak di Indo gitu. I can't go home late. You want to have that independence gitu, and then I think that's what I can find by living by myself. So I think that's the con of living with parents. How about living with friends atau living with roommates? I guess not really friends, tapi kayak if you have roommates or housemates.
The pros is nggak sepi if you get along well with your roommates. Kayak it's basically just living with a friend and you have a lot of fun. Gitu bisa ganti-gantian chores, so not everything, you don't take care of everything. They have some responsibilities, you have your own responsibilities, and bikin lebih mudah.
Kalau misalnya mau hangout sama temen-temen, ngajak temen-temen ke rumah gitu, bisa house party. Like it's very nice gitu, kayak live with your friend. What are the cons of having house?
If you have roommates yang jorok atau kayak nggak sesuai dengan your habits, itu bisa berantem, bisa awkward. I had roommates that ate my food or steal groceries, steal money. Yeah, and also kalau misalnya satu roommate doesn't like to party and the other roommate likes to party, and then they bring friends over, itu bisa berantem. Basically a lot of conflicts because kayak I feel with roommates it's because you guys are two strangers. Not strangers tapi you guys came from different families or something.
Yeah.
Jadi kayak kebiasaannya tuh bisa beda-beda.
I think kayak I want to say I'm pretty lucky gara-gara kayak when I first told my friends gitu, I want to live with kayak these people. Ada my friend yang give me an advice, jangan tinggal sama your close friends or best friends. Terus takutnya nanti jadi berantem, terus kalian nggak jadi temenan lagi gitu.
Yep.
Because kayak bisa aja kita cocok gitu, kayak kita hangout seneng, tapi kita nggak tahu ternyata di rumah dia jorok banget. Ternyata di rumah dia nggak suka mandi, atau dia suka ninggalin piring di luar, and you're like annoyed. terus you jadi nggak temenan lagi gara-gara banyak konflik. Tapi I guess I was pretty lucky, kayak the people that I was roommates with atau house shared with, they're all like my close friends, and then I kayak cocok gitu sama mereka. Emang mungkin kadang-kadang kayak oh ya aduh kesel nih dia nggak nyuci piring, tapi kayak ya udahlah, I can live with it gitu. So which one do you prefer? Di tiga itu, living by yourself, living with your family, atau living with roommates atau housemates?
Apartment lah, sendiri, jauh lebih enak. I pay more, but it's worth it. Yeah, and also kayak your 20s is the only time you can live by yourself. After that, not always, but you can get married, you're gonna have kids gitu, and then like you'll never have privacy as much as you get in your 20s. Or don't get married. That's also a good choice.
If I have to choose, I think I would choose living by myself, or maybe have a housemate. Jadi bukan roommate tapi housemate. Jadi kita punya our own bedroom. Maybe because I have a dog. And jadi kadang-kadang kalau misalnya punya anjing tuh repot kan. Kalau misalnya ada orang lain yang ngebantu kita gitu, kayak oh bisa tolong kasih makan anjing nggak hari ini, atau kasih makan rose anjing, kasih kayak help feed the dog gitu, atau help walk the dog. I think it's really kayak helpful. I think it's kind of nice to have housemates. Tapi if I need to choose between the two, I would choose live by myself.
Yeah.
Privacy, I think privacy is very underrated. Privacy is very expensive. In Indo,
There's no
privacy.
Udah society-nya suka kepo. Keluarga lu suka kepo. The walls are pretty thick, tapi kayak space-nya nggak segede di sini.
But I guess kayak once in a while I do miss that, apa ya, the Indo culture kan lebih yang kayak rame-rame gitu, lebih yang kayak berkeluargaan, I guess. Kayak sometimes I do miss that, because di sini kan oh ya do everything by myself, and then sometimes it's kind of nice to like kayak oh enak ya kalau bisa rame-rame do this in indoor and stuff like that. So thank you all for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe if you want to see more of us making these kind of videos in the future. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and if you have any preference, you know, which living option would you rather have if you get to choose. Well, see you next time. Bye.